Mike, let's kick it off. Tell us about Powerlaw, why the recent move to go public. And I am curious, like, why better to invest in a closed-end fund versus, let's say, now investing in SpaceX, now that retail investors, everybody can get it exposure that way?
Well, first off, thank you very much for having me. And to just play off the first part when you opened up, the answer is yes. I do think everybody wants to own Powerlaw. We are the first venture-backed firm to list a closed-end fund. And to answer your question around why not just buy SpaceX, I think people should buy SpaceX. I think it's a phenomenal company and will continue to grow for decades. But what we offer is other names as well. You mentioned OpenAI. There's names like Kelshi, Databricks, Kraken. And so our thesis has been that we want to provide a product that resonates with the $25 trillion in US retirement accounts that have been locked out of access to privates and the massive wealth creation that's been happening in private companies. We want to unlock that for everyone.
Mike, traditionally, when it comes to those companies that you mentioned, venture capitalists obviously have access to those, and the investors who invest in those venture capital firms. Also, wealthy individuals who may be accredited investors, perhaps they have access through their wealth managers to like a, allocation of alternatives that include secondaries or investments in some of those venture firms. Do investors in Powerlaw have to be accredited investors, or can anyone buy into this?
No, I mean that's really what we were trying to solve for. That you're talking about the accredited set, but when you look at the U.S. population, and it's even more globally, about 90% of U.S. households are cut out of access to private companies because they're not accredited, so they don't meet that wealth threshold. And our vision long term is to build products that allow anybody to invest, no matter what their net worth, no matter what their portfolio size is, but to be built into their retirement savings and into those plans and give access to private companies. This is our first fund. We're going to continue to launch subsequent funds to give access to different pockets of technology, but always focused on giving access to private companies, something that we've been building a firm for 16 years to gain access, and we think that it should open up to all.
Yes, Mike, it's Anthony here. I think one of the interesting things about the closed-end funds, and it's not just your fund, there's been several others that have listed recently, and there's been a few around for a few years, but the trading's been quite volatile, I think, around the SpaceX IPO, and I think your fund and others have traded at pretty big premiums or premium to the underlying value of the assets. I guess I just wondered, like, how do you look upon that? Is that how do you explain those big premiums? And I think a fair degree of volatility as well.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of other competitors, and when I look at our competitors, our differentiation is we're venture capitalists. We've been investing in technology companies. I've been the CFO of some that you mentioned. We're different in that we're not just looking at the obvious names, which are the big names that we're all talking about, but what's next as well. And so how do we build portfolios that gives access to the companies that are going to be the big megas over the next 5 years or 10 years? And so we're focused on that and making sure that our portfolios are balanced. Our competitors, in sort of our estimation, we have respect for all, but we're the first institutional venture-backed group to do this, and we think that gives us a real advantage.
And Mike, I think perhaps around $200 million of your portfolio is actually in SpaceX. I mean, now that the company's public, what's your intentions for that holding?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, our value to our shareholders is to provide access to private companies. So as the lockup comes off and we have an opportunity to liquidate that position, we will do so as long as it benefits our shareholders. But ultimately, our goal is to reinvest the capital into more private companies because that's the value we provide to our shareholders.
How do you define beneficial to your shareholders? Because a lot can happen between now and when the lockup periods expire.
Sure. I mean, I think you started off by saying everyone can own SpaceX, and certainly they can buy it now in the open market. And so at some point, just the value we're providing goes away. So yes, we're providing a balanced portfolio of other names, but the actual value prop that we have as a firm goes away as we're holding public equities. And so as companies in our portfolio go public, we will look to sell them down over time so we can reinvest and have what we believe will be bigger returns from private companies that they may have heard of or may not. But at the end of the day, our goal is to build a portfolio that increases in value and gives access to private companies, something that we're uniquely positioned to do here in San Francisco.
But Mike, if SpaceX continues to soar, will you be, if it's in the benefit of your shareholders to hold on to it, would you, or your investors, would you hold on to it?
I mean, the answer is absolutely yes. We can hold public equities. And so we would assess that. And if we think that it makes the most sense and it's the best gain, then we would do that. But at the same time, I do think, again, our value is to give access to privates. And so we always look to that first and then make the right decision based on where we think the value is long term.
So Cursor is getting bought by SpaceX. We have potentially an IPO soon from Anthropic, another one from OpenAI, potentially more on the horizon. Is the pipeline after all of these IPOs and acquisitions strong enough to maintain a solid portfolio of private assets?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that we all focus on the big megas, which really are the three you just mentioned, SpaceX, OpenAI, and Anthropic. But think about companies like Databricks and Stripe and some of these others that really are hundreds of billions of dollars in market cap today. They will eventually go public. And then when you get down below that, I mean, there's hundreds of companies that we're looking at and tracking and considering for our portfolio. And Powerlaw, to be clear, is what we believe best of the best big tech. And our thesis is around concentration. And so our goal is to have 15 names only in that portfolio. But as we launch subsequent products, we'll focus those on other areas that we think matter, like AI, defense, space, things like this, that are starting to emerge. And there's the next batch of those companies coming that we're tracking, and we'll add those to future funds.
Now, Mike, just back on SpaceX, I mean, what did you think about the debut of SpaceX? Were you surprised about how well it's gone? I mean, it really has, after a really large valuation increase in private markets, it's also managed to attract a big valuation in public markets as well, a higher valuation. I mean, were you surprised by that?
I'm really not. I mean, I've been a big believer in SpaceX for a decade. And I think that Starlink and the unlock that provides to communications globally is really underestimated. I mean, it really is a stair step, and SpaceX as a company is a one of one. So I think it went as well as I expected, and I think it will continue to go up. And it is something that I think people should hold for 10 years. And I think it makes sense. You know, I intend to myself.
How important was it for your company, Powerlaw, to actually list prior to the SpaceX IPO? Was that strategic in terms of the timing?
It was certainly something we were focused on because it made sense for us to list before SpaceX, and they kept bringing in their IPO, which was challenging for us. But yeah, it made sense. And I mean, again, like our value prop is to provide access to those companies before they're public, and so we were working hard to make sure that we did go public or list before they went public.
Mike, you mentioned some of the other companies in the portfolio. I'll go through them again. Databricks, Stripe, Deal, Callsheet, Kraken, Tether, Perplexity, Canva, Ripplings, Figma, Waymo, among others. How does a new company get into the portfolio? What's sort of what are the rules that exist in an environment where I think a lot of people would argue there's not a lot of transparency?
Yeah, so I mean, our heritage is a venture firm, and so we have a robust underwriting process, and we're very disciplined about how we evaluate companies. And we try and build a portfolio that has the big megas, which we've talked about, but then also has companies that perhaps people have not heard about, like companies like Saronic or Colossal Bioscience, which you didn't mention, that are doing really interesting things. And so we're always evaluating to have a balance across the big megas, which I think are somewhat obvious, and then going down into the what's next, what's coming up, and making sure we have a portfolio that has companies in it across those different stages, because I think that's where you get outsized returns.
And Mike, I think I mentioned before that a lot of the closed-end funds, including yours, are trading at a premium to their assets. I mean, do you feel like the closed-end fund sector, as it were, could be does plan to raise further capital in the future? Do you think that will be something that a lot of closed-end funds will do?
I mean, 100% I do. I think there's a structural shift happening with venture overall, and I think we're going to see a lot more of these closed-end fund type structures as we head towards embedding them structurally in retirement accounts and eventually into 401k. So there's just no question there's benefits to invest in privates through this model. Even as an accredited investor, it makes sense to invest in models like Powerlaw, because once we're trading, now you have full liquidity versus in venture. If you look at the trends, we have half the number of public companies that we did 25 years ago. Companies are obviously getting much, much, much larger. We have three essentially that are trillion-dollar companies and still private. And so you want to have access and have part of your portfolio in those privates, but having built-in liquidity in the public markets makes sense. In terms of the premium, that's just straight supply demand. There's a massive amount of demand for these names, and we have very limited supply, and that will change over time. Our goal is to have a fund where investors make money. So we don't want a massively volatile fund. We don't want our stock price going up and down. We want to continue to put up returns for our investors over time and have a stock that investors can own for a decade.
Yes, and Mike, a lot of your holdings are via special purpose vehicles, and I think Bloomberg has actually written quite a few articles about some of the issues in that area and some concerns about the transparency and fees associated with those sorts of structures. How much of an issue has that been? We haven't heard a lot about this issue since SpaceX went public, but is there something to play out there?
I mean, I think it is, and I think that the press around this and things that Bloomberg's done make a lot of sense to make sure that non-professional investors that don't necessarily have the same underwriting capabilities don't go into vehicles that they don't understand. In our case, we've done almost 900 secondary transactions. We're comfortable with all types of transaction. SPVs, we are certainly in SPVs. About half of our deals are in SPVs in the Powerlaw fund. But we follow through. We only have SPVs that are audited. We follow the trail through to the cap table. And so our underwriting process protects us. I think all the warnings we're seeing from companies and articles that are out there are all around protecting investors that are not professionals, that are not sophisticated, that don't have an underwriting process that's robust like ours.
Hey, Mike, one last question. Just got about 30 seconds. You've been CFO of a bunch of large publicly held tech companies, including DocuSign. What do you see as the biggest challenges facing SpaceX as it transitions to the public markets? Just really quickly.
Yeah, no, I think for SpaceX, it's bringing together the different companies. They're bringing xAI in. Obviously, X is in there as well. And then just the different businesses and making sure there's focus across on those to expand SpaceX overall. But again, I think it's an asset that's a one of one, and I think it's a phenomenal company.